Today's event is long overdue and will hopefully bring closure to a family still grieving the loss of a loved one from the Korean War almost 70 years ago. What we will do today, thanks to the perseverance and tenacity of Rosalie Robinson of A Hero's Welcome and Rolling Thunder, and also Matt Meyer in Newcastle County and Kenny Dunn. They've been working on this project for 2 years to dedicate a monument that will remain here in perpetuity, serving as a reminder of one of our own from Delaware who was missing in action and whose remains have never been recovered. This is only one story in about 82,000 since World War II, whose fate has not been resolved. We need to remember the courage and the sacrifice of a true Delaware hero, Private First Class Samuel L. Crawford, and bring some degree of closure to his family, particularly his sister, Rosalie Guy, who's been waiting for his return since she was 17 in 1950. PFC Samuel L. Crawford, 18, of Walnut Street in Wilmington, enlisted in the United States Army in June of 1950. He was assigned to L Company, 3rd Battalion, 15th Infantry Regiment of the 3rd Infantry Division in the Korean conflict. They were engaged in the Chosun Reservoir campaign in November of 1950. On the 27th of November 1950, Private Crawford and L Company began their attack against the enemy. The enemy forces grew larger and larger and began to encircle the company. They formed a defensive perimeter and, before being completely cut off, withdrew to reorganize and to continue the fight. In the words of the Army, Private First Class Crawford was lost during the course of battle and, as near as can be determined, died in one of several rearguard actions, unobserved and unreported. The family was notified that he was reported missing in action in January of 1951. And 3 years later, in January of 1954, was presumed dead by the Department of the Army. Samuel Crawford, like many, were lost in the chaos of battle or in a relentless firefight that prevented rescue or recovery. Their loss is even more profound for their families because of the inability to provide them with some sense of closure. You know, in all wars, captive Americans were stripped of their precious freedom and oftentimes used cruelly as pawns at the negotiating table. They fought long, lonely battles against despair and the ultimate fear of abandonment. But we are here today to publicly state that Private First Class Samuel L. Crawford, you are not forgotten. We also honor the family members who have suffered and have made great sacrifices for our country. Their patience, perseverance, and drive to get a full accounting serve to remind the American people that the search must not end until all are accounted for. Today, we also remember families who were able to gain some degree of closure as they were able to lay to rest their loved ones. The men and women of all our military services through the Department of Defense will continue to strive towards the goal of fullest possible accounting of those who are still missing. We believe our comrades and their families, along with the American people, deserve no less. We remember these members of our armed forces who have given everything in defense of the independence and the freedoms that we hold most dear. It is with deep respect and solemn appreciation that we single out those who paid the ultimate price, like Private Crawford. The American people will never forget their courage, their devotion to duty, honor, and love of country, often in the face of vicious treatment and torture by their captives. Keeping alive the memory of dedicated servicemen and women like Private Crawford and the sacrifices of their families remind us why they serve this great nation and inspires all of us to emulate their spirit. Our lasting tribute to the Americans who have never returned is that we will never forget. This monument dedicated today is certainly symbolic of that pledge and will be here in perpetuity, remembering the memory of a true Delaware hero.